The film opens with a grand party hosted by the most influential Yakuza family in Osaka, Japan. During the event, the Yakuza family introduces their youngest daughter, a toddler, to the guests. Unfortunately, the celebration is abruptly interrupted when an attacker starts shooting everyone. The Yakuza family is brutally massacred, and even the son of the Yakuza leader is shot as he tries to reach his deceased mother. 20 years later, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, a man wakes up in a hospital with no memory of the events that led to his condition. As he tries to leave his room, he is stopped by several individuals who prevent his exit. The unnamed man, puzzled by his situation and the cuts covering his body, is left to ponder how he ended up in the hospital. In another part of Sao Paulo, where many Japanese descendants live, a girl named Amy is practicing sword fighting with her teacher, Chiba. Amy, who has no parents and has lived only with her grandfather since childhood, was recently left in Chiba's care after her grandfather's death. Chiba trains Amy rigorously and reminds her that her grandfather wanted her to be strong and unbeatable. Meanwhile, in Japan, a Yakuza named Takashi receives a phone call from his subordinates after spending time with a woman. After the call, he rushes to a location where a man named Yoshiaki, suspected of betrayal, is being tortured. Before Yoshiaki dies, he reveals to Takashi that his boss knows a secret Takashi has been hiding and has even sent an assassin to kill the person Takashi is protecting. Enraged, Takashi kills everyone in the room. Back in Sao Paulo, after finishing her training at Chiba's dojo, Amy hurries to her job at a shop. Her friend comes by to discuss her love life and advises Amy to find a boyfriend. Amy, still mourning her grandfather's death, says she doesn't have time for such matters. When she returns home, she prays for her late grandfather and reminisces about him. At the hospital, the amnesiac man wakes up with his hands handcuffed. A doctor and a team of police investigators arrive to give him a katana that he was holding when found unconscious. The amnesiac man claims to remember nothing, including the katana. After the doctor and police leave, the amnesiac man secretly removes the handcuffs, changes into different clothes, and causes a fire alarm to create chaos. This distraction allows him to retrieve the katana from his room and escape the hospital. At Takashi's Yakuza headquarters, Takashi arrives simultaneously with his rival, Kojiro. Kojiro complains about Takashi killing Yoshiaki, using this to convince the boss that Takashi is becoming untrustworthy. To prove his loyalty, Takashi offers to cut off his finger, but the boss stops him, indicating trust. Kojiro warns Takashi to be cautious if he wants to avoid losing his life. Meanwhile, the amnesiac man wanders through Sao Paulo, unsure of his next steps. The next day, Amy visits a tattoo shop to get a tattoo of a symbol her grandfather used to show her. Although she doesn't understand the symbol's meaning, she chooses it to remember her grandfather, who was killed by a mysterious person wielding a katana. In another part of the city, the amnesiac man examines the katana, hoping it will trigger memories of his past, and removes a bandage revealing cuts from sharp objects. A few days later, Amy celebrates her birthday and her friend invites her to a nightclub party. During the event, Amy decides to perform her favorite song on stage, but is harassed by a rude man. She fights him and his friends intervene, but nightclub security stops the altercation. Simultaneously, the amnesiac man, drawn by the katana, enters an antique shop where he finds the katana's sheath. The shop owner, an elderly man, explains that the katana, known as Miram Mesa, is cursed and compels its owner to seek out victims. The shop owner then provides the amnesiac man with the address of the katana's original owner. Meanwhile, Amy is at home opening a drink her grandfather had saved for her birthday. She feels sad and unmotivated, particularly since she lives alone. The following morning, the amnesiac man goes to the address given by the shop owner, which leads him to Amy's apartment. He begins searching for clues but finds none. At the airport, Takashi arrives in Sao Paulo and signals his driver. Amy, chased by the men she fought at the nightclub, runs to her apartment for refuge. When they break in and attempt to attack her, the amnesiac man, still in the apartment, helps her fend them off. Armed with the Mira Mesa katana, Amy manages to slash one of the assailants. Takashi arrives, and both Amy and the amnesiac man mistakenly believe he is with the delinquents. They attempt to escape to the roof, where Takashi pursues them and opens fire. The amnesiac man fights back, disarming Takashi, and with Amy's help, pushes him into a moving elevator to escape. To avoid capture, Amy takes the amnesiac man to Chiba's dojo, where she helps treat his wounds. Despite their lack of acquaintance, they feel a connection through the Mira Mesa katana, which they believe might help them uncover their pasts. Later, while searching for medicine in the dojo, Amy discovers a photo of her family with Takashi. She asks Chiba about it, and Chiba tells her to consult the owner of the shop where she works for answers, warning that her life depends on the Mira Mesa. Amy decides to leave immediately to find answers about Takashi's connection to her family. The amnesiac man, realizing he has been left behind, follows her. At the shop, Amy meets Mrs. Sugahara, the owner, who reveals that she had spoken with Amy's grandfather before his death. Sugahara gives Amy an address written in Japanese. Amy continues her journey to the address her grandfather left. Meanwhile, at Amy's apartment, police investigate the reported commotion and collect evidence. Kojiro and his men arrive at Amy's apartment and attack the police, revealing their hunt for Amy. On the train, Amy, who has fallen asleep, wakes up to find the amnesiac man beside her. He explains that he has no way to restore his memory except by following Amy, who is connected to the Mira Mesa. Hearing this, Amy agrees to let him accompany her. Arriving at an old village, Amy and the amnesiac man encounter two elderly men who initially try to chase them away. However, when Amy shows them the Mira Mesa sword, the men allow her to enter, though the amnesiac man is only permitted to wait in a room. The two old men reveal their Yakuza tattoos to the amnesiac man. Amy soon meets an elderly woman in a kimono who takes her to the Yakuza group's leader in the area. The leader warns Amy that in the Yakuza world, allegiances can shift rapidly, and she must be prepared for a long journey and a fight for something. Although Amy doesn't fully understand, she listens attentively. She is then instructed to clean up and rest while waiting for someone to meet her. That night, after the rain has stopped, the old woman takes Amy to a nearby graveyard where she is allowed to find answers about her past. Amy discovers her grandfather's grave and finds a storage box containing a newspaper clipping. The clipping reveals that Amy is the daughter of the largest Yakuza group, which had been massacred by enemies. In the warehouse, the amnesiac man wakes up and realizes he is locked in. Meanwhile, Amy encounters Takashi in the cemetery. Takashi approaches calmly, saying he won't attack. A group arrives at the cemetery and Takashi advises Amy to hide. Unexpectedly, Kojiro and his men attack the village, taking the Yakuza leader with them. The amnesiac man, now freed, is shocked to see the aftermath of the attack. Takashi and Amy manage to subdue several attackers, but face overwhelming numbers. Takashi uses his gun, leading to a shootout, while urging Amy to escape. In the yard next to the house, Kojiro forces the Yakuza leader to reveal Amy and Takashi's location. When the leader refuses, Kojiro beheads him. As Takashi and Amy try to escape in Takashi's car, Kojiro's men fire shots, forcing them to hide. Fortunately, the amnesiac man arrives and helps fight off Kojiro's men, allowing Takashi and Amy to escape, though the amnesiac man is left behind. The next morning, Takashi takes Amy to a safer location and explains that she was hidden in Sao Paulo after surviving the massacre. Takashi had to pretend loyalty to the killer of Amy's family, who is now the Yakuza boss in Osaka. The boss discovered Amy's survival and sent an assassin to kill her grandfather, who lost his memory and is now helping Amy. Takashi tells Amy she must return to Japan to revive her family's clan and confront the Yakuza boss. As Takashi finishes his story, he realizes Amy has left without him. Amy heads to the dojo to confront Chiba, only to find her martial arts teacher dead. The amnesiac man arrives at the dojo, and Amy, believing he is responsible for Chiba's death, attacks him. The amnesiac man attempts to explain, but Amy continues to fight until Takashi arrives and tries to kill him. Amy intervenes, forgiving the amnesiac man. She and Takashi then rush to the helicopter pad on the roof of a nightclub to get to the airport. At the nightclub, they navigate through various rooms used for illegal activities, unaware of the assassins waiting for them. They fight off the assassins, and Amy, using her remaining strength, helps the injured Takashi to the roof. Kojiro and his men are waiting, and Kojiro kills Takashi with his katana. In his last moments, Takashi remains loyal to Amy's family. Amy faces Kojiro and his men alone, but is helped by the amnesiac man, who fights back and defeats the enemies. Amy and Kojiro engage in a sword fight, with Amy ultimately paralyzing Kojiro and slashing him to end the duel. Amy approaches the amnesiac man with the Mira Mesa sword, but after he swears he did not kill Chiba, she believes him and names him Shiru. When the helicopter arrives, Amy asks Shiru to accompany her to Japan to confront the Yakuza boss who destroyed her family 20 years ago.